Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Timeless Movie Podcast, episode number 151. My name is Victor Vasquez. Appreciate you joining me on this episode and this channel where all we do is talk about movies. We talk about movies that come out in theaters or in streaming. We'll give you some high level thoughts. We'll dive into some spoilers. And then at the end of the podcast, we decide, in our opinions, is this movie timeless? Is it something that we can rewatch in the future various different times? Everybody's going to have their own opinions, and that's the fun part about deciding whether a film is timeless. Is it something that, like, man, it blows you away so much that you can rewatch this over and over again? You know, what you might feel in that specific feeling of timeless might not be felt by somebody else. And that's, again, the cool part about everybody having their own opinions about movies. And if you want to voice those opinions, well, this is a perfect place to do that. There is a timeless movie podcast email. It's actually timelessmoviepod@gmail.com. Let me know your thoughts about any movies that you've recently seen. Happy to bring that up on the podcast. Also, if you want to interact with us, we're on social media platforms like Instagram, Blue Sky, and Threads. Look those all up. On all of those platforms, it goes under the name Timeless Movie Pod. Feel free to reach out to me, and happy to talk through any current or older movies that you guys have recently seen and decide if it's timeless. Speaking of recent movies that we have considered timeless or not, episode 150 is available on platforms like Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. Go check it out. Search Timeless Movie Podcast. You will catch the latest episode where me and my brother Omar ended up talking about the new film called The Long Walk. It was such a bleak and just such a sad but intense movie. I enjoyed it. Go listen to that episode 150 and hear whether me and my brother thought that this film was timeless. All right, enough of the housekeeping items. Let's jump into this week's episode, in which we are talking about the new film from the series of Demon Slayer. That is right, we are talking about Demon Slayer: The Infinity Castle. Now, I have to be very upfront, very honest, and very clear. I have not seen anything in regards to Demon Slayer when it comes to the actual seasons all the way through. So again, I wanted to put that very, right at the beginning of this podcast. I am not a huge fan of Demon Slayer. I, again, have never had the chance to check out any of the seasons. I know that there was a prior movie. Never seen any of that. And so now I'm pretty sure you're questioning, well, what the hell are you doing on this podcast talking about this movie? Well, my fiance, who loves the Demon Slayer series, really wanted to go watch this movie. And so again, I'm always down to watch any movies in theaters. So I went to go watch it with her. But before I did that, she asked me, okay, well, you got to watch something. Something's got to give you a little bit of insight as to what this movie's going to be about, because you're going to be lost. There's so much context in this animated series. So I ended up watching a little summary of all of the content for Demon Slayer. It was actually on Screen Crush, if you guys have ever seen that or heard of that channel as well. Really great stuff that they do there. And so I watched I think it was 27 hours in 37 minutes. And I watched an entire breakdown of what Demon Slayer has really gone through up until this point of Infinity Castle. So now that I gave you that kind of context in regards to what my experience is with Demon Slayer, I do want to say that for any fans of the series, please just be patient with me. I'm probably going to mispronounce a lot of names. I'm probably not going to say the right things when it comes to this whole series. Again, I'm coming in very fresh. So please just, give me some time. I'll eventually kind of get there as I describe different types of details of the movie. But just please know I will be butchering and mispronouncing so many names in regards to Demon Slayer. But again, I'm not doing it on purpose, not trying to make it funny or a joke. I'm just going to mispronounce things just because I'm not going to say the names the right way. But with that said, let's go ahead and, now I've really rambled a lot. Let's jump into the non-spoiler thoughts of Demon Slayer: Infinity Castle. So the Demon Slayer Infinity Castle movie is actually directed by Haruo Sotozaki. He is actually not only the director of this film, but he also directs the entire Demon Slayer series that started in 2019. Essentially, if I can kind of give you a good summary, and again, this will contain a little bit of spoilers of the last bits of the season that played out in the animated series. But essentially, what we're doing in these films and the series is we're following this Demon Slayer Corps, these group of individuals that are tasked with taking out and killing all these different types of demons that roam the earth. And At the end of the season, what ended up happening is that we finally get to this point where the Demon Slayer Corps is trying to go for the big bad. The big villain in this series is called Muzan, and they have him at this one point. They think they have the advantage, they have the upper hand, they think they're going to be able to take him out. And then all of a sudden, the entire Demon Slayer group is engulfed in a castle, an infinity castle that just keeps expanding and expanding and expanding. And that is essentially how the animated series on TV ended. And this film picks up right from there, where essentially all of the Demon Slayer core is all split up. Some folks are paired up with other individuals, but their goal is to try to make it through the Infinity Castle to find Muzan and take him out. That is essentially what this story is showing us in this film. Again, I try to simplify it as best as I could. I know that there's a lot more details and context of it, but that is really the whole kind of plot line of this story is you have Tanjiro, who is the main character, and the other Demon Slayer core just trying to find their way, navigate their way around this infinity castle that they have no idea how it's expanding. They don't know where to go, and they end up fighting off these different types of upper moon demons who are working for Muzan. Now, I got to check it out on opening weekend, and I gotta say, I had such a fun time watching this movie. There is just so many great things to look at and appreciate, and it's due to the stunning animation that this film was able to pull off. Again, I know I'm in the. I'm pretty sure this is just stating the obvious. This is why this series has such a big fan base, but the animation that this company is able to, they just are they created so many impeccable scenes, so much action that is covered in this film, and it's just all of it looks so great. Everything looks crisp. You're able to follow all the characters, and I think what makes it so cool is that the scenes and the animation make it feel so grand, make it feel epic, and it makes you feel the stakes that these characters are going through. So uh, everything from the animation to what the characters are going through, their challenges, everything just was so interesting and fascinating to watch. And I think that's the biggest compliment that me, Victor, I can give to this film is that a guy that has never seen the entire series of Demon Slayer had such a awesome time in the theater. I was intrigued. I was hooked. I wanted to know, okay, what the hell are these forms? There's different breathing techniques. Like, I got some of that from the summary, but now I'm invested in these characters, and there's just so many things that the film throws at you. It's 2.5 hours, but it all was just so captivating. And again, I think that has to do with not only the animation, but how these characters were set up and, dialogue, all this stuff. So let me not talk too much because I don't want to kind of cut off some of the pros and cons that I want to bring up. So I think this is a good segue. Let's maneuver over to the pros, and that way you can kind of get more of a sense as to what I enjoyed about this Demon Slayer Infinity Castle movie. Okay, first pro that I wanted to call out about this film is the music. My goodness, this music it blew me away. It was incredible. There was so many different moments. You have characters fighting these different types of demons, and when you start seeing these interactions occur where you have a demon slayer facing off against a demon, the music picks up. But what was so cool is that it wasn't the same themes every time. It almost felt like different characters had their own themes. Even the demons, who were the villains, the antagonists of this movie, they had their own themes, and the music would just again it would fluctuate and change. You would get sonically, you would get different sounds. Sometimes it would be like electronic type of music. Other times it kind of reminded me of like Mortal Kombat. And so there was so many great moments, but that was the thing right from the get-go as this movie started. And it didn't waste time to let you know, okay, we're in this castle and we're going right into action. And I just loved how the music incorporated itself into multiple different scenes to, again, add a little bit more emotion, add more tension. And man, it's just incredible. The way that music plays such a big part. And I know that I kind of mentioned that in previous discussions about movies, but I don't know, for this one, the music was at just the right tone where it didn't like really try to surpass what was going on in the action. It just always was in a great conjunction with the action. So that's probably one of the biggest pros I can give it is the music was just exceptional when you're seeing all this action play out. Okay, second pro for me in regards to Demon Slayer Infinity Castle has got to be the way that the animation was all animated for the action specifically. This is, I think, where I completely understand why so many projects like these take so long. Just to kind of have a reference point, right? Into the Spider Verse and Across the Spider Verse, that took 5 years between movies to make that, and now we're waiting, I think, another 4 years for Beyond the Spider Verse, and it's because of how much details and animation goes to through that process to make it look perfect. I can totally tell that if there was another 2 to 3 years to wait for the next movie, I totally understand that. Although it would suck for the fans, right, for having to wait that long, but I mean, it's worth it because the way that they animated a lot of the action inside the castle was, again, it was just mind blowing. I know I'm going to repeat that word multiple times, but it was just so incredible how they were able to make every single action moment and sequence clean. You're following the characters. Sometimes it would go so fast, sometimes it would slow down, but it all just looks so beautiful to look at. And I think one of the better things about this type of animation is the coloring too. And what I love most, I mentioned a little bit before, as I'm kind of catching up with a lot of the different types of forms and breathing styles that some of these demon slayers have, everybody has their own kind of color coding. Some have red, some have blue, some have purple, just depending on what kind of form they're doing. And then just the color just pops on the screen. So the way that they were able to really capture all those types of animations and just make it look so epic, I mean, again, it goes to show you that all of the hard work that the animators put in is just worth it. So yes, it sucks that we might have to wait a little bit longer because there is going to be another film, but man, I mean, if it's gonna come out this beautiful and just look that incredible, again, it's worth the wait in regards to that animation style, and I can't wait to see it again. All right, and the last pro that I have in regards to Demon Slayer Infinity Castle has got to be the way that the film is able to add so much depth to its characters. Again, what I'm saying on this podcast is probably going to be so obvious for the big Demon Slayer fan. You already know this. You're like, well, yeah, duh. That's why the series is so big. Again, apologies. Just be patient with me. But again, I'm coming fresh into this, and I was just blown away that every character has a purpose, and it's not just like the protagonist. It's not just the Demon Slayer. It's like Tanjiro and all these other characters that are around him. It's even the demons. It's even the villains. It's even they get backstories. They get context in regards to why they do what they do. And so when a film is able to really accomplish like the purpose of every character, show a little bit of the backstory, flashbacks, the dialogue between characters before they start fighting, all of that just mixes in to make this experience so much more enjoyable because again, you're just seeing these characters fight and really fight to the death, but there's a little bit more like heft to it because now you understand, well, this is why the demon is like this. He had such a tragic backstory, or they had such a very disastrous life before they decided I'm gonna become a demon. And then you also get the side of the protagonist where like Tanjiro ends up kind of looking at flashbacks to pick up on things that his father told him. And so there's all of those different components. And again, I mentioned a little bit before, but it kind of gives the depth to these characters and it gives each one of them purpose so that you know exactly that when the movie is focusing on these characters, it's for a reason. And I think that's when movies really shine is that when they give these characters something to do and it's not just mindless like actions. No, everybody's trying to go towards a specific goal. And that's obviously at the end of this to kill Muzan, the big bad of the series. Now, I'm going to jump into cons. There is one con that I had about this movie. Again, I'm going to probably be in the minority on this, but again, I'm coming in fresh in regards to Demon Slayer. But I just mentioned about how they gave so much depth and context to a lot of these characters. My one con is actually related to that. I feel like there's a specific part in the third act where because one of the demons is so unique and they're going through their backstory, at one point in the third act, the backstory was so long that I almost forgot that we were in a battle, and that's how crazy intense they were trying to go through the entire story of this one demon character named Akaza, and man, again, I was so engulfed in like the story. I was into it. I was never bored, but I did feel like its length just took a long time. It just felt like, okay, we extended this for so much. We showed a lot of detail, a lot of the interactions of what this character had before they became a demon. And again, it's like a double-edged sword. It's on the one hand, it's good because now you know that okay, every character really matters in this story, but if you extend it for too long, you can kind of, it messes a little bit with the pace of the movie. You're like waiting to go back into the battle, and now you're kind of slowed down by this story that is just, it's still making you feel a certain way emotionally, but man, it kind of it takes you a little bit away. So that's my only gripe with the movie is that there was one specific backstory that, although I enjoyed it, did take a little bit longer in the third act when I felt like it could have cut a little bit of details just to kind of speed up the film altogether. But again, probably going to be the minority on that specific nitpick. Okay, those are all the pros and cons that I had about Demon Slayer Infinity Castle. Next question I want to ask and answer is, should you guys go check out this movie in theaters? For Demon Slayer fans or people that have seen the anime series, it's a definite recommend. Please go see this in theaters. It is so cool. If you can, I know I'm always saying this. It's not even an ad. I wish I could probably get, some type of ad for AMC, but Dolby Cinema is probably one of the better experiences. The speakers are so loud, and again, the colors on the Dolby screen just pop so much. So that would be my recommendation. For anybody that hasn't seen the series like myself, uh, that is a little bit more iffy. Only because again, I went in with the feeling of like that. Yeah, I've seen previous animes before, and I love action, so it really worked for me. But if animes don't work for you, this isn't really going to change your mind too much. I would still maybe give it a shot in streaming, but again, that would just be my preference. If you don't really like animes or action, those kind of sequences, then maybe you don't have to go check this one out. All right, those are all of my thoughts in regards to Demon Slayer Infinity Castle from a non-spoiler perspective. Let's shift gears and move over to the spoiler section. Let's start asking the important question of, is this film timeless? But before I do that, I want to let you guys know that if you have not seen Demon Slayer Infinity Castle, please jump out of the video now, watch it, then come back, because again, we are going to jump into just a couple of spoilers that I wanted to call out in regards to the film. So again, hopefully that gave you enough time to jump out, but we are jumping into spoilers, so that'll be your final warning. All right, let's go ahead now and jump into the most important question of this podcast. Is Demon Slayer Infinity Castle timeless? Is it something that I can see myself rewatching in the future? I will say I had such a fun time. This is such an incredible animation. Probably, as of today, my favorite animation of this year, of any of the animated movies that I've seen. I haven't seen too many. There's a couple ones like Bad Guys and Dogman. There's still a couple others that are going to come out like Zootopia 2, but man, this one was incredible. However, I will say that this film is not timeless for me, with the caveat. And the caveat being is that there's still two more movies to complete this entire trilogy that I believe that the team that is making this series is planning to create. So there's still two more movies to complete this entire arc. And so because of that, again, I haven't seen the other two films. They haven't been made yet. As of today, I'm going to say that it is not timeless. Again, still an incredible movie, still something that I would recommend to people that have at least seen some clips or seen some seasons. There's just so much things to like about everything, the animation, the colors. But again, for me, the fact that this is still a incomplete story, again, I need to see the other films and the other kind of concepts of like the arcs of what they're trying to build out before I can actually decide on if this film and the entire trilogy will be timeless. So that's kind of my answer. A little bit of a cop out. There's also another aspect of why I don't think it's timeless, and it goes back to my nitpick, which is the story of one of the, or really the backstory of one of the demons. Let me, again, spoil a little bit more of it. The one specific demon is called Akaza. He had such a sad backstory, but again, it worked, right? It intrigues you because you're curious as to, well, why did he decide to do what he had to do? And you end up seeing that he ends up losing a sort of like a father figure. He loses his actual father to a sickness. He loses to his potential wife that he was going to get married to. And all of this trauma and just depressing moments, and it all worked. But I felt like it happened at a moment in the third act of the movie where it just extended way too long. It actually messed with the pace of the movie because, again, that's the moment I was telling you a little bit earlier where I kind of felt like I got taken out of the movie a little bit and the pace fell off because at the beginning you had some action, you had some backstory, and then you got back into the action, then some backstory, back into the action. So there was like a nice little kind of back and forth, a nice balance. But in this third act, this backstory for Akaza went a long time. And so it took me a while to kind of get back into what was going on and how Tanjiro was going to try to take him out because he was such a tough challenge. But that's again another one of the pieces as to why I kind of think this film might not be timeless is just that one extended long backstory cut. Again, very minor. Who knows? Once I rewatch or even watch the other two parts of this arc, I can definitely go back and I would be happy to be wrong and tell myself, hey, I have a change of heart. This film actually is timeless. So I don't want to obviously end it in the regards to why I didn't think it's timeless. Let me call out a couple of other things that I really wanted to highlight that I, again, didn't want to spoil earlier on. I want to call out that one of my favorite scenes of this movie is an action sequence, no surprise, but there's actually two excellent and beautifully animated action sequences. One of them is when you have this character name, and again, please be patient with me because I know I'm going to mispronounce this, but I believe the character's name is Zenitsu, and he ends up going up against a character and a demon called Kaigoku. And so he ends up having this intense battle where you just have these two characters. Again, a little bit of backstory. You get a little bit of the details and context about both the protagonist and antagonist, but it does it in such a clever way that it wraps their stories up together. And then when they actually have their face off, my goodness, you have Zenitsu who has this kind of thunder breathing type of a technique and form. And the blue lightning that would come out whenever he would speed and go through and glide across one of the rooms in the Infinity Castle was just so elegant and so amazing to look at. That scene alone was like incredible. And again, the music starts kicking in, it starts making it so intense. And again, that fight just set the tone for how beautiful some of the other fights would also be in this film. And then the last one was the one that I was kind of just mentioning that in regards to the backstory, you have this face off in the third act between Tanjiro, who's teamed up with Giyu, and they're facing off against Akaza. And man, that one was just such a good back and forth. And I think what the one aspect that I love most is Akaza, again, the demon. They were sometimes, again, some of the better characters because of their backstories. But also, what was so cool is that they made all the demons so different and unique. And I know that's probably obvious. You don't want all the demons to have the same kind of capabilities and the same kind of color coding. But Akaza was just so cool because he used no weapon. All he used was his fist. And in his backstory, you get to see that he was actually trained in a dojo. And that's why he uses only his hands, only these types of fighting techniques. And again, every single aspect of the action between Tanjiro, Giyu, and Akaza was captured just beautifully. I'm going to repeat all the words: magnificent, stunning, excellent. It just everything just made you get so invested in what was going on. I loved it. So those two action sequences in the movie are things that if you've seen it, let me know if you agree with me, or let me know what your favorite moments were in the movie down below in the comments of Spotify or YouTube. And in Apple Podcasts, if you're listening there, send me an email. Let me know if you agree or disagree with those two scenes being some of the best action in the movie. Okay, last little thing I wanted to end off with was I really enjoyed the humor in this movie too. Again, I know that there's a lot of humor in the series. My fiance had told me that there are some characters that are kind of meant for like that kind of, maybe comedic humor or the comedic relief. And so I was really caught off guard with some of the funny lines that certain characters have. So again, definitely something that you look out for if you've seen it. Again, I'm pretty sure, again, if you're already a fan of the series, it's no surprise to you. But for me, it was a really nice touch, especially with how much action and how much intensity was going on in some of the scenes, to have those little bits and pieces of these moments of humor, especially with this Infinity Castle that just keeps growing and the odds are stacked against the Demon Slayer core. Having those little bits of humor just added to my enjoyment of the movie. All right, everybody, I have been rambling long enough about Demon Slayer Infinity Castle. Again, I really enjoyed my experience, and again, dare I say that I probably, because of this movie, will try to check out more of the seasons, kind of catch up and get even more color to it. But what I will say is that I am excited for the next movie. I want to keep watching the series and see how it all ends. And again, after I watch all three of them, maybe my opinions will change and I will flip these to timeless. But who cares what I think? I'm pretty sure all of you guys that are Demon Slayer fans have been waiting to tell me, no, man, you're wrong. Well, this is your chance. Go ahead in the comments of YouTube or Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, send me an email. Let me know, do you agree or disagree with my thoughts on Demon Slayer Infinity Castle? Who was your favorite character? Who was your favorite performance? And what was your favorite moment of this movie? I would love to keep interacting with you guys. And let me know more of the lore. I'm down to watch more. Let me know what you think I should be focusing on. And if you guys know when the next movie's coming out, I definitely would be curious to find that out as well. All right, everybody. That is all of my thoughts in regards to Demon Slayer Infinity Castle. My name is Victor Vasquez. This has been episode number 151 of the Timeless Movie Podcast. Make sure to check out next week's episode as we cover a new film and we decide after one viewing if it's timeless. All right, everybody. Hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll talk to you later.